Okay, now you can talk about silver.
Yeah, but now the people are going to get hostile.
Well, who's going to get hostile? There's no jewelers here.
No, it's you know f- the people I don't get it is if we keep going with the prices that way with the gold and silver and keep the value in the dollar value, it's going to be a problem in a few years from now. It might not happen right away, but it's making the dollar go down in value, and you're going to have less borrowing power, less purchasing power, and it's not
Yeah,
just United States; it's about the
exactly.
global.
Hey, am I
Well, I
silver? Yeah, am I $1 silver certificates worth any more now?
I think so.
well, it's paper. The
Right.
paper's
No,
worthless
they're not worth, they're only worth $1.
for now.
They
Okay,
stopped.
okay, okay. You bring something up, Larry. Let me explain something. It's worth $1, but it isn't worth. You don't. You judge the dollar on what you can buy with that dollar. So let's say you can buy a pair of sunglasses for $1. Now, when when um when the dollar gets devalued or goes down in value, and there's a whole mechanism for that Oscar alluded to. Suddenly, you need $1.25 to buy that pair of sunglasses. So that dollar is worth less. It's not worth the same dollar that it was a week ago,
No, I know that.
and that's what's happening.
And that's what scares me the most, but because what it's going to do, everything's going to get more expensive. Things are expensive already as it is,
They're already more expensive.
and it's going to get really, really, really expensive. So,
That was my point, but I didn't say that.
you know, but that's why I don't go to Facebook that much. I used to watch just for something else.
Oscar, you're the first person I thought of when I read that, read his comment. Like, oh, this is what Oscar's talking about.
So that's what I keep some things. I keep some things quiet now because of that.
Mhm.
I finished an image that I really like, but I don't. I had to do a lot of cleaning, so it's going to be interesting how it looks. I need to print it on paper to see how it looks.
Um, in that
But
same
it's good.
post, somebody, as a joke, mentioned grizzly borate, which is a material, was a very popular material in glazes, and they stopped mining it, or they ran out, or whatever. I had, I used it exclusively, but I had, you know, at least 100 pounds, and then people gave me some, so I had this huge amount, and probably was 10 cents a pound to buy. Now I can sell it. I can sell 5 pounds are going for $70, on eBay, the people that want it. So so we went from 10 cents to $12 a pound. And I would never, and I'm not gonna, I have a lifetime supply. I don't need the whole amount. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can sell some of it.
But oh, you know, and the rush of last week getting ready for Boca, I the wrong size of mat board, so I got a stack of 16 by 20 mats. And then 16 by 20, I should order 18 by 24.
Yeah,
So now I just wasted $130 in mats.
really.
So
Now you're stuck with
I will see
making
what.
that size. you're gonna have to make that size print.
No, the print is fine. It's the outside frame. It's the wrong side. No,
You can't fit something in there,
no, it's going to look horrible in my booth.
really.
Yeah. The image fits, but it will look bad. I got an idea how to solve the problem, but
Can you sell it to anybody?
I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to order the same amount of mats outside dimensions and make these guys bigger. Just see if I can do double mats out of them. So we'll see. I don't know. I really don't know. I might just toss them out to the garbage. That's probably what's going to end happening.
At least it's 70 degrees today.
Yeah, 29 here.
It was 32 last night at the in Florida, 32 degrees.
And 24 where I am.
I wake up today. You can see the whatever place you got a leak of water. It was frozen. It was
Really?
yeah. You can see even the drips coming down. You like a little drip. You see the drip like a little. Cool. If the water running a little bit to see if that solves the problem. So.
And where are you? Where is that?
In Florida.
Where?
I'm by Fort Myers.
Yeah, there are people paid a lot of money to be there where it's nice and warm.
It's nice and warm when it's nice and warm, but the last few days it's been every morning you're waking out to 26 degrees in the morning. And Boca Raton, it was on Sunday night, it dropped to, I think, 30 degrees or even below that at night. I did the show and the temperature never went above 51 degrees for the whole day. So it was not pleasant to be outside.
They say the iguanas are falling out of the trees.
Yeah,
I heard that.
We saw one.
Well, I don't know about iguanas, but 2 months ago, I'm sharing a room this weekend, and it was 2 months ago. It was $175 a night. I could get that room right now for $100 a night. So apparently, people have been canceling because of the cold.
It's still going to be cold this weekend for Florida. It's still going to be on just touching the low 70s.
Perfect weather
for you, but for them,
yeah.
it's going to be dropping still. It's going to still drop into 40 degrees at night. It was so cold this morning that I had to turn the furnace in the trailer for 50 just to warm it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now inside the trailer is close to 80 degrees, which is wonderful.
Yep.
But it was cold this morning.
I had a question for you guys.
Yeah.
So the standard booth shot should be 10 by 10, right? Or do they accept like
double all the time?
So we can do doubles?
You can do doubles, but some shows I show my double boost shot now because that's what I hope to do all the time. But I had the discussion with somebody else earlier today. You want to have
There's no standard rule.
the
Every show
booth.
is different.
That's the problem. There's no standard rule. So you want to have the boost shot that you going to have the one that you're going to use the most. So if your goal is to start doing double booth all the time, you should shoot a double booth and use that like your jury image. Because most of the viewers want to get an idea how your booth is going to look at the show.
Right.
Some people don't like a lot of Photoshop on it, but I don't see how you don't do that sometimes. Some people want to see the print bends, other people don't want to see the print bends. So, but you just have to, what I do, regardless of, this is how my booth looks all the time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to show you. This is what I want my booth to be looking like. When I do autograph, I'm going to do another booth shot because I'm going to have finally the full tall version of the booth shot. If I get good lighting, if I don't get good lighting, it's not going to happen. But the layout is the same. The only thing is going to be taller now. So
How tall are you going to go?
I normally do a 9 foot tall 10. That's my standard. But the double booth shot that I got right now is 7 foot, and I don't like how it feels anyhow. But that's what I could do when I did it for the first time. So now I can do it all the way up and see how. See, I think it's going to look good. I also, the other thing that I was debating if I should let the push the middle part forward and have like a two more walls to show in the back, but then I'm afraid that people are going to start going over the stabilizer bar, tripping and falling. So that took care of that idea.
Oh yeah, you can't put a stabilizer bar in front of anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to block that out, and maybe when I get a little more money, then I will buy the extra leg and a couple other things to open it up completely in the back.
You
But
know what? My
yeah,
suggestion is your booth looks fine. Stop messing with it.
it's not about the look. It's more like what I'm hanging. It's the problem is that when you start printing big, like I'm to the point now that when I put something else in the wall, I need to take something out. And I want to get rid of the water lilies, but people keep looking for those and they keep buying them. So,
Yeah, that's a problem.
you know, so that's the dilemma that I'm dealing with it right now. But it's not as bad as it could be, but it's challenging. But to answer your question, Roy, just show have the booth that you're going to use the most. That's the one that you should submit. Oh. But
Well, I appreciate that because, because Marianne, she does big art. I mean, she's doing 3x3s and bigger. Right now, she's working on a 4x5. And, we have 8 foot pro panels that I can extend to 9 feet, and we can put a skirt on them so I can go 9 feet. And the tent, the light dome will go 9 feet. And I'm just thinking, well, I probably won't do it this year unless we do it later in the year. But I'm thinking of getting another light dome, and then just doing a double light dome. I've got enough pro panels for it, so although I really would like to get maybe 3 more pro panels, kind of like so the standard Pro panel I think is 39 inches or 38 inches. I'd like to maybe get a couple of small ones, like the 35. I think they come 35 or maybe even smaller, and
They,
kind of
they make,
do something like in the middle up front or something. So I've been looking at some of the double booths that people have been posting on Larry's site, so on the image site Facebook page. I don't know.
and it's just the sizes are 38 and a half, 30 inches, 24. But they can do any size you want. It's just a custom size. But I would suggest you to take out with the standard sizes that they make, because if you had to sell them later on, it will be easier. You
That
know.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and quite honest with you, it's a lot easier to work with. Like I got 230 inches, and I'm going like I wish I should have done 238 inches instead of the 230, but it's too late now.
Right.
So,
Right.
but just work with what I don't try to make it too difficult on yourself.
That makes sense. Yep.
You have to make sure you got room to carry all that shit. Also, just keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, I know. I've got a cart that holds 12 Pro panels.
No, and your vehicle.
Oh yeah, well we're looking at getting a trailer. We're looking at getting something. I'm thinking we're going to get a 7 foot by 7 by 12. I'd like to get a 7 foot by 12 foot trailer, dual axle,
Okay.
and I know that'll fit everything. If a 6 by 12 I know would work also, but I kind of like that. I really like the 7 by 12 because that would give me a whole lot more room to work with. But
It's more difficult to. The other thing that the trailer is the most practical thing to get, but it's a lot harder to get in and out of some shows, especially city shows.
right.
Like you won't be able to do a show like an Old Town with a trailer. You will have to dolly out of the site.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or if you try to do a show like in Rittenhouse Square, for example, it's going to be really difficult because there's no parking, and it's a dilemma. So if you guys can get a band, that would be the best thing to do.
We were thinking about doing a van, so I don't know. We're still looking at it.
Yeah, if you're going to do this in the long run, you need to get a band. There's no way around that, to be honest with you. Because it's the most practical thing to do. Everything else, the trailer is practical to get it, but it's a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. And most artists hate when people pull up a trailer because now you're blocking 3 booths instead of just one.
Right.
No comments, Barry, right?
Oh yeah. How about 2 trailers to take up? And I think you're being kind with 3 booths. Let's take 5 booths and have 2 of them right in a row, and then have it right up against the where I can't even get in to get my stuff. But hey, why should anybody care about anybody else, right?
Yeah. So that's the problem with the trailer. Other than that is
You know, in my case, the problem that concerns me is the person knew who I was. So I'm thinking, do they won't know me from here?
no, I don't think that they know you from here. I think can you describe me the trailer?
No, it was dark.
It was dark.
Well, okay, it was dark out, and it was also the trailer was dark and big. Hey, Court,
Yep.
how you doing?
I had to go to Target. I had to go to the doctor's office, then go to Target.
Yeah.
And they remodeled the Target that I went to, is the one I used to work at. And Now half the stuff I can't find anymore because it's moved. I
So
bought,
it was an adventure.
yeah, I bought a couple of, bought some picture frames. I've got doing a first Friday event at a furniture, uh, interior design furniture company, furniture store. So I want to put some of my small prints in frames that I can stand up on tables. In addition to my big stuff on the wall.
Hey, I've never been in this group. Can I ask a quick question?
Do you
Sure.
want a funny answer or do
Oh,
you want the truth? What a nice answer.
Well, just to give you a little backstory, in the 90s, I used to do my artwork on printed t-shirts, coffee mugs, and framed prints, and I never sold an original. So I was only doing craft fairs. I used to do the old Applegate place that is defunct now in Bentonville, Arkansas, but I did like 42 shows in 52 weeks. It was serious. And
Uh, I'm
we
sorry to
did
hear
it.
that.
Yeah, we did it all out of a minivan, like a Chrysler, different ones, but a Chrysler minivan without any seats, obviously. And now, as I got older, I decided I don't want to do reproductions. And I took so many years off, I thought I can redesign whatever I want. So now I'm doing my ceramics that I love, which are huge porcelain pieces. Porcelain in and of itself is a hard move, show to show.
Yeah.
And my husband's getting ready to retire this year, so we want to go full time on the road. And I thought I would
Why?
love, yeah, exactly. Well, every show I've done Denver Smash. I didn't get in Cherry Creek this year. I did Bayou City. I've done 4 or 5 times because I'm based in Texas. And I just
Excuse me.
got word from St. Petersburg. I got some stuff sold you don't have to be on site at the one at the,
temple.
yeah. So I think and we're thinking about even relocating to Florida because there's so many Florida shows that you can just do back to back and you wouldn't have to drive so much because the vehicle thing is what's killing me. Right now, I can get everything in my Chrysler Pacifica. I have black pro panels and I have a light dome, the finale. And I'm trying to figure out if I really think we're going to have to go to a double booth to make a go of this financially. We'd have to bring more stuff, have more exposure. And I just wonder if anybody's doing it full time and making a living with a single booth, or is that like, you're nuts? You got to have a double booth for them to take you seriously.
No, I'm going to tell you, before I start doing the double booth, I asked a lot of people. The double booth only brings you one and a half more. Like whatever you make, only half of that. Say they used to. I'm just throwing number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Single
Yeah.
booth give you $10,000. A double booth is going to give you $15,000. That's what most people are saying. Doesn't really double your sales. The only time you really need a double booth is when you get a high traffic show. Um, if you do a show like Coconut Grove, not even Gasparilla,
No.
but if you're doing Coconut Grove, Winter Park, Fort Worth, Brookside, where you get tons of people walking, that's when you really need the double booth because you get lost. The other problem that shows are having now is that a lot of artists are buying more double booth. And if you get smacked between two double booth and you do single booth, you get lost at the
Nobody
show.
notices you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
didn't have
it's
that
more like,
problem.
I did a single booth for almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can do the single booth and be fine. It's just that like lately in the big shows, you start seeing more people with double booth, and heaven forbid that you're stuck between a stack of double booth, and you might get lost.
See, I would be more afraid of the booths that go up like 9 feet or 10 feet tall.
See, that's what my question.
Yes.
Like, I don't like going high. I feel like if you go wide, you're catching more people off
Yeah,
the
but
walk.
high you can see from a distance.
You
Okay.
know, you just have to figure it out by doing it. I don't think
Okay.
anybody can tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurant on the street.
No,
Wife, did you want to go?
I'm gonna have to go out of the plants.
Okay, but did you want to go to watch sunset there? Or you don't care. You
Okay.
don't want to go. Okay, well then,
All right, so I'm gonna go there and come back then.
you're okay.
so
You
why don't you
that?
make those
Yeah.
porcelain pieces and don't sign them and just give them to me and I'll sign them and I'll pretend I made them.
So here's the follow up to that.
How do you make those?
When I did Bayou City, I did twice. I did it with a single booth, and I do not have a second tent. So I wanted to buy a double booth for the downtown Bayou City because Bayou City downtown is just a madhouse. Like when you do the Memorial Park, they walk around gently, but when you do downtown, they open up the floodgates. It's only a 2-day show and you're just socked. So what I did was I took some panels and went outside my booth, like teed in from the middle of the booth and fanned them out. So my tent was right in the middle of the double booth, but the walls extended a half a booth on either direction. And we did the best show we ever did. Like we literally doubled what I had done there before, but it was really difficult because then you have to pull it all into under the tent and zip down at the end of the day. And then in the morning you have to get there early the second day and fan it out again.
Well, and you have to fight with your neighbors not to take your space.
Well, not really, because I mean, they had their spaces marked with corner
Well, no,
markings,
I understand, but
Hey,
Mhm.
if you bought a 20 by 20, you can put your stuff in that space any way you want, except out in front, so you're not blocking. But if you have let's say a 10 by 10 space and you're putting your stuff out, that's a real no. That's a real no.
Right. No, we had I
You'd be
bought
glad
a
to be not
double
next to
booth.
me.
I bought a
Yeah.
double booth. I just used the space, the footprint, but not, I didn't have it fully
Yeah.
covered by a tent. You know
You
what
know
I
what the
mean?
problem, you know what the problem with that is
The
that your
weather.
neighbors think it's free space and you have to tell
Oh,
them not to
Okay.
not to invade your space,
I
which
see
will
what you mean.
happen most of the time.
Hmm?
That happens a lot.
Yes, okay.
Yes, yeah.
So if you have pro panels that you're putting out and you put them out all the way up against the sides of their tent, it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
But if you
Well,
don't put them up against the sides of their tent, they're gonna try and hang their work, especially if it's a 2D artist, they're gonna hang their work on the outside of their tent.
That's right.
right.
and that was kind of a problem. I mean, because I teed off my sides, and so they noticed I didn't have tent there, so they hung it on the side outside of their tent. And so you could kind of see some of their work while you're standing in my booth looking at my work. So I guess you're right. Maybe just put
Yeah.
those,
You
buy
want
a
to know
couple more pro panels and get them against their tent
Yes.
you want to know
almost.
what the worst part about that is? The
Mhm.
customers are standing in your booth, in your space, looking at their work.
Right.
That's the
No,
worst
I
part of
get
that.
it. I get it. But when I got toward the end of the show, I talked to both the artists on either side of me. And, you have to be super tactful. You've been there, done that. And I was like,
No, you
this was
don't.
really, really a solid show for me. How did you guys do? And the one said, I barely, broke even. And the other one was like, well, I'm way down from what I did last year. So I felt like the double booth killed it for me. And the people on either side of me had nothing to write home about. So when you made that comment about having a double booth on either side of you and you're the single in the middle, I think they felt like that show. And I don't want to be that. So I'm
Well,
wondering, do I have a choice even? Should I have to do a double booth?
that I'm going
It's
to
up
say
to
take
you.
that with a large grain of salt because
Yeah.
I've been next to people that have had double booths and I've done better than they did.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it depends upon your work and what people, the demographics of the show. If the demographics of the show are your people, you can have a single booth and do very well.
Yeah. My
You're right.
experience, recent experience is Coconut Grove. With every year, I had a single booth, and there's been double booths on either side of me, and it wasn't a problem. If anything, I appeared more intimate. Like when you get into my booth, it's more intimate. It's more,
Okay.
so it's more personal. It really depends on the size of your work and what you're doing. If you have big work, you want more space around it. If you have pieces like I have, it doesn't matter.
My biggest work. Okay, so here's my other question. Sorry to be, I don't want to monopolize, but I would love a little more input.
Hey,
I'm
you can talk as long as you want.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, yeah.
Larry called me this week and I was like, man, do I have questions? I think it's because I'm on the cusp of really doing this full time and it's really, there's a lot of unknowns,
Listen,
right?
nobody really can tell you anything. Because it's
Yeah.
different for everybody. It's different for every show. It's different for the same show at any different year. So you just have to wing it and know what you're doing and
Right.
figure it out. That's,
And then sometimes
Yeah.
do the double booth and like this last weekend with the weather, I was going to do a double booth in Boca Raton Museum, but because all the problems that I had with the transmission and everything else, I just end buying just a single booth. And I was happy I only got a single booth instead of the double booth because the weather was so bad. I
Oh,
don't,
yeah, you're right. If the crowd is slow, then you're mad you bought a double booth.
yeah,
Yeah.
a
So
corner
would you
booth,
recommend
but
like
weather.
maybe as I transition to full time, just do every single show as a single booth and just see what happens
I
and
would just
see where
honestly,
your crowd is. Who are the people that respond to you? I mean, is that fairly consistent? If you do well in an area, you might do well there next year. You might want to take a double booth the next time.
Here's an idea. If you're friends with somebody else and you're next to each other, you share the second space. So,
Mm,
so you have a 10 by 15.
that's interesting.
I've actually done that before.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
great.
It's fun.
I'm gonna come back to something, and Oscar may disagree with me, um, or he may agree with me. I would seriously think about moving to Florida because I have kind of my experience has been talking to people that do Florida shows is that you have the Florida shows and then you have the rest of the country. And there's a big
Mhm.
difference between the two. And what goes on in the rest of the country doesn't necessarily apply to Florida and vice versa. Is that
and that is true.
See,
You mean in terms
That
of
is true.
subject matter or crowd
Subject,
subject,
size?
subject matter, size,
everything.
everything. It's a totally different market.
yeah.
Even
Look
you
at
seeing the same customers in the mid, if you do the West Coast from Florida, there's a good chance you're going to see the same customer that you see in the upper Midwest. But what they buy in the upper Midwest is totally different what they buy down here for Florida. There's two different markets. The
yeah.
houses, a, a modest house is bigger than a house in the Midwest. Everything is different, and they're looking for most of the time for bright colors down here more than muted colors. So, but things are changing. I'm not going to tell you one way or another one. The only reason to move to Florida from Texas is that you can do more shows down here from
And that's what I
October
was
to
thinking. We want to do spring shows because my husband in his retirement wants to run the family farm in the Midwest, and that's from May to October. And every other state I looked at, the best shows are in like May and October. So if I lose my right hand man May to October, and my work, my porcelain, my it's not pottery like Midwestern pottery. In fact, this show this weekend, I did really well because it's light, bright colors. It looks like the ocean. It's pale creams and blues. And You know, I mean, a lot of people look at my stuff and say it looks like the beach, it looks like the ocean. So
I'm not saying good or
Uh,
bad. I'm just saying it's really different.
it's different.
And so you
yeah.
need to,
Experiment before you move.
yeah,
Well, let me
if
tell you
there's,
something. I'm thinking of not coming down here for only for one show, Coconut Grove, or going back to what I used to do in the beginning, which was called the Big Three. It would be Coconut Grove, Gasparilla, and Winter Park. And that's the
Okay.
only shows I would apply to. For me, this is just me, because I don't, well, I can't tell you why.
I
I
don't
don't
do
want to
Florida
say why,
shows.
but huh?
I don't do Florida shows because my work would not sell there.
Right. What
That's
is, and
true.
yours is photography?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but but Court, like somebody said, they have two houses. They have a house up north, house, and many times somebody comes in and they're debating where to put it. So which house to, should I bring it up north or have it down here? So it is
Now
possible.
my new work, I might sell in Florida. My old work, no. I
Yeah.
actually had, I actually talked to Camille about it. Camille said, "You don't do my show." First time I've ever had a director say, "Don't do my show."
Really?
Because
Yeah,
she understood that your work might not fit there very well, more or
yeah,
less.
she knew my work and she knew what sold at her show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
And I have a history of any place that is a tourist destination, I do extremely poorly in.
Okay.
Well, then you wouldn't want to do Florida because a lot of the sales
Right.
involve lucky, who's on vacation that week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
when I used to do Naples, if somebody, it would always be people from out of town, and and if you got they're only there for a week or 2 weeks. So if they're when I'm there, then I make the sale. If they're there another week, and it's a totally different crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So one year it'd be one crowd, one year it'd be another. I'm dependent on that one person from up north, or those people from up north to buy my work and bring it up there.
And this
Uh,
is what's weird. The the show that for St. Petersburg, that the El Bethel, I have never done it. They invited me. They saw me at Houston and they just said, "Can you send us some pieces?" I only sold one of my vases, but I do wall pieces that I incorporate ceramic into them, so it's still considered a clay piece. And I sold my biggest one and my second biggest one, and I wasn't even there to talk about it. Like I literally couldn't go this weekend. I would have had to use, money just to fly over there, and they're like, "Nope, we can handle it. They set it up for you, they tear it down." So I was like, the weird thing to me is the ones that had the color stayed, and the one that sold, the biggest one that sold, was black and white with a tiny bit of soft grays in it and blues. But I mean, black and white sells like crazy for me, and I in Houston the same way, so much black and white selling. And I'm like, is it because all the interiors have gone to grays and people are afraid of color now? But I didn't expect that in Florida. I thought all the colored stuff would sell and the black and white would sit there. And I know one show is not a litmus test, but what's going on like Coconut Grove right now? Are they selling just tons of color?
Well, for me, it's less about color,
nice.
black and white, and more about subject matter.
Okay.
Who knows?
And if you're abstract, subject matter never matters. It's more size. For me, every show I've been doing lately, everything huge is selling. And my smaller stuff is not selling. So that's kind of like the opposite. A lot of artists are saying don't go unless you have some smaller items. But I take the small items home every day. So then I thought, well, maybe I should just concentrate on big pieces. And instead of taking all the time to set up the small stuff, just do two double booths with huge pieces. But I've not talked to any artists who do that, but I know a couple that recent shows I did, that's who won the awards. They had just
I
huge pieces and a couple of them in the booth, and that was it.
That's what I just started doing. I went from what you see behind me, which was a
Lots of
little crowded
little.
and ugly. That this was the photo behind me is my first show. But I
Okay.
went from frame pieces like that to I used to hang roughly between 16 to 18 pieces in my booth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now hanging 4.
Okay. And what's your price point? I mean, I'm not being rude because I don't do photography, but
Um, Probably 1,500 to 8,000.
yeah, and see, I never price anything. I mean, I take that back. I shot up to Denver and I did this Cherry Smash, which is right on Fillmore. It's right in the Cherry Creek neighborhood. It's not the Cherry Creek show. And my son, it was right after COVID, and he's an engineer and he flies in and out of Denver. And he looked at my price, and I was like, I have $1,200 on this big 4x4 painting. At that time, I was doing both painting and ceramics, and Smash let me in with 2 categories, which was wonderful. Anyway, I get up there, but my son's like, Mom, add $1,000 to every price in your booth. Like he was just being snotty, and I did, and I added $1,000 to my 2 biggest pieces, and they both left. And this gal came into my booth and she said they were interested, but they left of this one that was $2,300. And then when they came back, they were out in the aisle talking to a friend. And when they came in the booth, they said, we want to take that piece. And I said, oh, it was nice you bought your friend. Did she help you make the decision? And after I'd rung up the sale and figured out where I was going to ship it for them, they were like, well, she said, we asked her, was 23 too high of a price? And she goes, yeah, for that one, 23,000 is a lot. And they said, no, 2,300. And she's like, get your shit in there and buy that thing. She's like, that's Walmart pricing. And so then I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not in tune with what people spend, because I'd love to do Coconut Grove, but I need to up my game, I think, in terms of my prices. My tall vases are only $500. I'm thinking maybe
I
they should be 800 to 1,000.
easily. I lo-
Okay.
I did some looking around at the last 3 shows I did. Well, 2 shows I did and 1 I went to. And I kind of looked at painters, and I looked at stuff that was roughly the same size as mine.
Okay.
What shows were
And
these, Court?
what's that?
What shows were these?
Um, Plaza, St.
Kansas
Louis, and
City. Okay.
yeah, and my local show here in Wichita.
Okay.
And actually, the guy with the highest prices, the painter with the highest prices, was at my local show in Wichita.
Wow.
He had 16 by 20, roughly 16 by 20 size paintings for starting at 10,000 and went up.
Did he sell anything? Could you tell?
Yeah, he sold a couple things.
Wow.
What's the subject matter? Is it abstract or realism?
Um, Bright colored, um, not abstract, more kind of realism, kind of still life, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Um, but I was looking at things roughly in the 4 foot by 8 foot size.
Okay.
And I have my piece that's 60 by 90 inches. It's priced at $7,900.
Okay.
I
And
thought about higher, thought about lower.
have you sold price pieces like that?
I've only shown it at 2 shows.
Okay.
So, and this is not just one single photo. It's in
It's a
panels and has dimension to it. So it's
That's
not just
beautiful.
a single photo. Um,
I want to say
and I
something about this
found
thing.
painters in that size that were higher than me. I found painters in that size that were lower than me.
So
I
really, you just have to go out and figure, because I do all abstract, and sometimes I think realism sells for more money. But that being said, some of the booths that I saw, in fact, one potter that does pottery and wall art, she got into Cherry Creek this year, and her stuff is probably triple my prices. I almost wonder if, oh, and one of the potters, one of the ceramicists, because I call myself a ceramic artist. I don't make anything that you eat off of. It's all art. It's all abstract art. It's not functional. And I looked at her website, and she was kind of like their feature gal, as far as her photo, and her vases were $2,800, for a vase that's no bigger than mine. So I'm wondering if the organizers take you more seriously as they see your prices go up, especially if your craftsmanship's really spot on. You know what I mean? Like then they expect that price to be higher just to make sure that it's lending quality to their show and you're not undercutting some of those bigger artists. That's what I'm afraid of. They're going to say, don't come because we don't want your cheap prices next to our high-end artists. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and I
Let me know when I can talk about this.
go ahead, Barry.
Go, Barry.
Okay, two things. Um, I did the St. Pete thing a couple times, and they none of the vessels were selling. Not me or anybody else that had vessels.
Okay.
Some people had really nice vessels.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me an award the first year, and which brought me back the next year. And see, I do raku, or I did raku. I'm
Cool.
trying to change, and and I think it's really good, but it doesn't matter because people don't
I
understand it.
love Raku. You've got a fan, but I get it. People don't understand the work.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
so okay, so they broke a piece the first year. They paid immediately. The next time I was there, I made the mistake of bringing my pieces early, and they had me put it on a table, which happened to be right in the way of everything. And I thought maybe I shouldn't do this. Well, what happened was somebody knocked the table, and all the pieces fell over.
Oh,
So they didn't break, but they chipped or there was
yeah.
paint on them. Okay. So when I went the next day to look, they had set it all up and everything. I'm there. I'm going, oh, where's my work? Because the first year they gave me an honored space. This time I was buried somewhere in the back. So I'm going, oh, not the back room, but that front
Right.
room, in the back. And I'm going, why did they do that? So I went back to my space because I'm trying to, I want to sell the work, and I was turning pieces around, and I went, "What's this white stuff?" And I'm looking, and some of the pieces were chipped, and they didn't say anything to me, and I wasn't particularly happy about it, so I didn't go back. But part of the problem is, you know, um, I blame myself for bringing my stuff a day early, but when you come from the north and you get there,
Yeah.
you know. So I've not been back, and I don't think they like me. So they would have to, it was a while ago, so maybe they don't remember me, but maybe they do.
No,
So
this is good information because I had one vessel sell and I sent, I think, seven, no, eight. And now they're going to ship it back to me. And I put it in really, I packed it very nicely. So
yeah,
I'm hoping it gets back to me
well,
packed as
I'm
nicely.
talking about there at the shows. They knocked it over,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah, no, I know what you
and
mean.
they hid the paint or the chip in the back. They turned it around, so you
Wow.
couldn't see it. Yeah, I wasn't happy about that. Like I wouldn't notice it.
Right, right.
Okay. Now, Cherry Creek. I looked at the ceramics at Cherry Creek that got in, and I was not impressed.
I was not either. So is that nepotism or how do they pick it? Does it have to be super rugged for Denver or?
No, because it's a different jury every year, and
Mm,
and there was a porcelain potter that throws porcelain and glazes it. So I thought I had a really good chance of getting in because I know him, and you know he would understand my work, but apparently that didn't happen. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe he liked it. You can go look at the first round to see, and I never do that because if I get rejected on the first round, I'll get upset. So I'd rather not get upset. But
right.
I was not impressed. I mean, like those sculptures, it was like, at least the pictures, it's like they were trying to be sculptures, but they
Right.
weren't really anything special.
Exactly. And I
Did you
got
agree with
through the
me?
first round, but I don't think the ceramics they accepted were there
See,
was
I'm
probably
I'm a
two that were better than what I submitted, but
I'm a
they didn't even throw me
dinosaur.
the eye.
I'm a dinosaur in that I throw pots and I glaze them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that. You don't see that anywhere.
Right.
It has to be sculptural. Well, mine's sculptural, but they have to have design on the surface.
Yeah.
stuff like that. And mine's more of an Asian tradition, you
Okay.
know, like in Asia and Europe. If I could be connected to those markets, I'd be doing really
It's
great.
just
So
Lucille.
maybe LA, sorry.
LA,
There's a lot of Asian buyers in LA and Seattle. Like I've walked a lot of
Okay.
shows in
I
LA
got
and Seattle.
sent
really?
me the information.
Because I never did the shows out west. Does
Okay.
that include Utah
I
or
don't know about
Portland?
Utah, where I was the Seattle market, huge Asian influence and a lot of people that sell Asian inspired pieces because that the whole demographic out there, there's a huge Asian contingency, and if they're not Asian, they know somebody who is.
Yeah,
And LA, where I walked was like the Orange County shows. And there is a show that you can get into that you don't have to live in Orange County. And that show did really well, but that's a killer. Like you're there for 5 weeks. You're talking about the festival pageant show. It's right across the street from it. And we walked it the last day of the show. And the artists were definitely not complaining. They were like, yeah, and that's a hard show because you're there, but it's indoors. So you
yeah,
just set up and you live there for like a month, 6 weeks maybe in the summer.
yeah. I did La Quinta one year, but I left from Naples and drove out. It took
Oh,
5 days to get out
wow.
there, and then 3,200 miles back to Michigan. And I think I'm still tired from it. And it was 10
Yeah.
years ago.
And that's why I'm like,
Yeah,
I feel like I have to pick the geography where I want to live and then just don't go coast to coast. I mean, I know people who drive coast to coast. That's just crazy. That's just insane, you know?
Where in the Midwest is your husband looking at
He'll
farming?
he'll probably be farming in Iowa, but all the stuff's there. So like if we live in Florida, he'll just hop a flight and he'll go up they still have a home there, the family home, and he can stay there. So he doesn't have to live there. And the sad thing is this is a really small town, an hour from like Sioux City or Fort Dodge, which are really small cities. And so there's no access to clay supplies or glazes or anything. So no matter what you do, if I lived there, I would have three strikes against me as far as getting materials. And I lived there for years when we were first married, and there's nobody there that speaks art. Nobody. And right now, living in Austin, Texas, I'm like as spoiled as it gets. We have 700 artists on studio tour in Austin, and that's not counting all the artists that don't do it. So you want to get into a cocktail party with 100 artists, no problem. But where I was, there was no artists to speak of for hours. And I know now online stuff is easier to connect with people, but boy did I feel secluded. So what I had to do to sell art, I started painting barns and windmills and keeping the price points low. And then I graduated to just my art I did florals and a local screen printer's like, I can screen print that. So then I did sweatshirts and t-shirts and I would go to Kansas City, Denver, Chicago. I even went to Atlanta and one on the East Coast in Philadelphia and sell to stores. I did the wholesale markets. And we got to a $500,000 in sales doing a little retail shop. I did less road shows then. I did about 10 big craft fairs and then I did the wholesale shows. But in order to keep up, I had to have lots of employees. And I think we had 10 or 11 at a time that packaged and tagged and got these shirts out the door. And so it was doable, but I was miserable. And I had an employee embezzle from me. And when we shut it down, because the bank was like, okay, we can't float you any more moving income, till you settle this with court. And she stole quite a bit. Like it was like close to $40,000. So, and back then that was some serious pocket change. And so we shut it down. I started working for other people. I was a store manager. I did a lot of retail. But when my husband, we ended up relocating down to Texas, and he had been out of work for 18 months, and he got a job in a month and I got a job in 2 weeks, and we never looked back because the economy here was such. And I saw a vacant store and I went for it. I opened a small art gallery, got enough people to notice me that I started just selling without the gallery, closed that down because of the rent. And then I started doing shows. And the funny thing is, I've noticed the difference between like Austin and all the shows I visited. Denver, Kansas City, and maybe a trace of Des Moines are the only places I could really show solid in the Midwest. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you're from Wichita, but
I
it's,
have seen, it's strange here. Um, I was next to a guy that I watched his pieces started at 15,000
mm,
and he sold two pieces. I barely made my booth fee of $500,
wow.
partially because I was local and partially because he
Yeah.
was from out of town.
Okay.
But the money is here. It's just a matter of getting the people to spend it.
Well, Wichita has some airline background, right? Like some serious
No,
engine,
not airline,
no?
aircraft.
Aircraft, okay.
Pretty much, if you get on a plane made in the United States, there's at least one part, if not the whole plane, that's made here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm just frustrated because I feel like I don't want to drive 10, 15 hours to a show. And that's why I was thinking
If
Florida.
you, one thing you might consider, and a lot of artists that do bigger, more expensive pieces do this, it's something I'm working on right now, and that is get out of the mindset of you need to do you need to do 15, 20 shows and try and really refine things, up your prices, and pick 6 or 7 shows, 6, 8 shows. And if you've got Des Moines, you've got the Plaza, you've got St. Louis, you've got Cherry Creek. There's 4 of the top shows right there that are easily probably within a day's drive of where you're gonna of Iowa.
You know,
Right.
So, and
except
then
for
that
one
doesn't touch
problem.
anything in Chicago, anything in Minneapolis.
I don't like Chicago because I've had multiple friends go show it, like the other art fair in Chicago and a few things on the Navy Pier, and people don't even make their booth fee. It's like they're just looking for cheap.
Yeah.
I
But
want to say that to
The shows that
you.
Court was talking about are hard to get into.
that's right. That's my other thing.
So you can't
Yeah, they
assume
are.
they're going to get in.
Yeah.
They're really hard to get in. I mean, my wife does abstract and very good abstract, and expensive abstract and big abstract. We can't get into these shows. We just got declined in Old Town today.
See, and that's the other thing. It's like when you're doing abstract, there's so many people that you're competing with. And so
Yeah,
you
but
really
but
have to be careful.
yeah,
Well,
but good abstract. I mean,
Hmm.
we've seen some stuff where they're just slinging paint on the wall and they're getting in these shows, and it's like, my wife taught for 25 years. She knows all the concepts of and principles of
Composition.
art. Yeah,
Hmm.
composition and it's like, for teaching for 25 years, it's like, she just doesn't sling paint. There's a purpose,
Right.
and we just keep. But you know what? We went to a show we never did before and did great in Florida.
Okay. Well, what I noticed about Florida is if you don't get in the big ones, there's tons of little ones, or tons of ones that might be a little easier to get in. But if it's just a disaster, I mean, is it good weather January through April, or are you kind of like sometimes hurricanes, sometimes not? That's what I'm concerned about. And if I don't do Florida, and you don't do the Midwest, where do you go? Like, I don't think it's even possible to live in the East Coast or the West Coast when you retire. Like, it's so expensive.
well,
Well,
I mean, if you look around the Midwest, and I don't remember exactly where in Iowa Sioux City is, kind of where you're talking about in
It's
Iowa,
on the
but
west side, yeah.
um,
Northwest.
there's in Minneapolis has several shows.
Hmm.
Um, tons of shows in Chicago. Oscar lives in Chicago. He can tell you which ones to do, which ones not to do.
Gotcha.
You know, Michigan, tons of shows. Um, so kind of in that upper Midwest, there's a couple good shows down in Omaha. Um, so there's tons of smaller shows, that are in that area as well. So yeah, you're kind of out there by yourself, but you could easily do 15 or 20 shows living in that area.
Yeah. And then my other struggle is abstract because, I think you have to be in one of the bigger cities. You can do a little bit, but when I did 42 shows in 52 weeks up there, anything that wasn't literal just didn't sell. When you're selling the country outside of the urban areas, they want to see craftsmanship, something they recognize. Like they'll buy a well-made basket before they'd buy an abstract painting.
And let me just tell you my 2 cents about your situations. I live in Chicago. I come down to Florida from January, stay here. This year, staying all the way to the first week of April.
Okay.
I do a show every weekend. You can come in October, but the shows from October to December are hit and miss because it's mostly local people, the people with money.
Right.
Yeah. The better shows are usually from January to
April.
actually March. April
Okay.
is a people are leaving in April.
Okay.
Then you can go from April. People go to Texas, or you do the swing by. If you can get into Dogwood, Atlanta, Chattanooga, Dogwood, Knoxville, or do Triangle in Louisville, and that way you work your way up to the Midwest in April, and you can do
Okay.
a bunch of shows in April, and the Midwest from May all the way to beginning October.
And that's when I won't have any help. My husband will
Yeah,
be busy May through October, so I'd have to hire somebody, and I've
and
never.
you can do that because you can hire somebody to help you to set up and break down for $200.
Okay.
Then the other thing that you are not thinking about it, the housing in Florida, the prices are coming down, but they are expensive for what
Okay.
you're getting. Yeah, the property taxes are cheaper than the Midwest. Other things are cheaper, but insurance is a lot higher. Electricity is a lot more higher. HOAs are insane. So there's a lot of other things that you have to think about before you buy down here.
Yeah.
I got the pressure that one of my our installation clients is the CEO from Crane and Barrel, and we got to chat, and she asked me if I was just end of the discussion. She told me this: you don't want to buy in my situation and what I do for a living. She highly don't recommend anybody making less than $500,000 a year to buy
Right.
anything in the West Coast, Upper East Coast of Florida, because the housing is insane and you're going to be in house poor for your rest of your life.
Right.
So I don't know your financial situation, but a decent house over here, you're talking in a good neighborhood, you're talking about $500,000 to $1 million easily. It's
Yeah.
not it's not cheap. And if you go to the like a nearby to where I stay in Florida, the houses starts in $300,000 for the shithole. Where
Yeah.
the house is a shithole.
The other thing you need to look at too, um, in your case, is because you've got kilns to run.
That's the other thing is electricity. And that was the bigger concern for me in Florida was, you know, if you're trying to fire in the fall, getting ready for the spring, and then you have sketchy power, you know, you're going to have a backup generator, and that a kiln's not going to, I
Yeah,
don't
you'd
know
have a
that a kiln
massive
and a
backup
backup
generator
generator.
to run a kiln.
Right. It really pulls down when it pulls.
So
So
that's, you know, that's something else you need to look at.
Unless
Well,
you're using an electric kiln, a brand new electric kiln, they're very cost efficient and they're easy to run and they're safe.
that's what I have is a new scut because we moved and so I had to
I
sell my
love
old
it.
kiln and I have a new scut and it always fires spot on
I
and
love
I
it.
have the app on my phone so I can look at it in the middle of the night what the temp is, you
Okay,
know.
I don't have that one, but I have the one before. 10,
Hmm.
10 minutes to at 10 minutes, 2 minutes to program it,
Right.
go to sleep, and when it's done, it's done.
Hmm.
Check it every
So,
once in a while to see that I don't burn down the building.
right.
Um, and
I know a glass artist that has a great deal. He lives in Oklahoma
Hmm.
and owns some land in Oklahoma. They drilled a gas well on his land,
Oh,
oh, cool.
and
he's
part
a
of his
gas
royalties
kiln.
are he gets unlimited gas out of the well
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
at no charge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why he stays in Oklahoma.
Right.
Well, that's a
Well,
really good deal. Free.
and it's hard for me to think about like if you do the Florida shows in the winter, but you don't live there, aren't you paying just through the nose? Like, where do you stay if you're there for 3 or 4 months?
No comment.
Oscar has a
Right?
trailer, stays in an RV park.
That's what I was saying. It's like you almost would have to rent or get on Airbnb and do a 4 month rental,
I need to.
but that's going to eat your profit. So do you actually have one that you own, Oscar? Oh, he had to go. Sorry.
Yes, he owns a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
He got a good deal from another artist. He does have to pay rent year round at the RV park.
It's
because
On
he
the
not a
lives
lot
out
spot.
though.
there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a
Got
lot.
it. Okay. Well, thank you. I won't monopolize the floor. Anybody else have questions? But this has been really insightful. Thank you for inviting me, Larry. So,
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, just barely.
Hi, this is Tom. I plug into this group every once in a while. I hear some great things, and you guys are all much more experienced at the show circuit. Yeah, am I coming in okay? Still loud enough?
Yeah.
Okay. My question was, and you guys were talking about it earlier about Coconut Grove and differences in between shows on the West Coast and the East Coast or Florida even. And my situation is I make kinetic sculptures, and I've gotten into Sausalito out in San Francisco Bay Area for about 4 years. Then back in the 2016 and 19 period, and I'm just curious. One of the things that I'm struggling with is price point. I'm scheduled. I've got a booth scheduled to Coconut Grove here in a couple weeks, and so I'm sitting here thinking, where should I? I've been out of the show circuit for about 7 years because of just my full-time job, but now I'm based in South Carolina, so Florida actually is a nice situation for me to do the shows down there. It's just maybe a 10-hour drive for me to do a lot of those, but um, can you guys give me a better sense for, I mean, if I'm selling stuff, and I was fairly successful on the West Coast in Sausalito and a couple of the smaller shows in California, but now I'm going to do the first show in this Coconut Grove. I just got accepted into Fort Worth as well in April. And just kind of curious on, I don't want to underprice myself, but I certainly, because of the expenses to get down to a show like this, I don't want to overprice myself and find myself falling short of the net that I need to make from this show. So, having said that, I mean, any feedback from you folks?
It's
No.
in this type of forum, it's impossible to give you any advice. It's
No, that's
pricing.
true.
Pricing is such an open-ended thing that varies from artist to artist, medium to medium. It's just it's tough. But I know if your prices were, I mean, when you're doing things on the West Coast, were your prices in line with others doing similar work, Were they higher, lower?
Well, that was one of the things I struggle with because they're kinetic sculptures. I guess it's kind of a two-edged sword. I seem to be getting accepted into shows because I was kind of an unusual type of art that the jurors didn't see, and so maybe I got in. Whereas if I was in a more competitive category, I probably wouldn't. So I didn't have. I mean, there's a few people in the country that sell. I wouldn't call it the same, but something somewhat
Mhm.
similar to what I do. And their work is has gradually increased in price. They do the higher end shows, so I'm kind of, as I try and figure out and test the waters as to where I should be price point. I kind of wondered, did I not do as well on a particular show because I seemed too cheap? Or was I overpriced? And those are the things that, I still don't really have a conclusion to that. But my main metric is just to kind of look at how people that sell kinetic art in general, and maybe has some similar allure to people that are into kinetic art. What are the price points there? And I think I'm probably going to be a little bit lower than those other artists. But my thought is that, like I said, I'm doing Fort Worth here in April, so maybe I come in, price my work a little bit lower than maybe where it maybe should be. But if I sell a lot, then maybe I adjust in Fort Worth. So that's kind of my seat of the
I
pants.
would suggest, if anything, you want to go in on a little on the high side. You can always negotiate down. You can't negotiate up. You can always negotiate down.
Do you find that you you get proposals for negotiations, or do they walk out of the booth if you're too high? Are people inclined to offer you something less, or just walk out and say, "Man, he's too high"?
It depends on how bad they want the piece.
I've had that happen where it was a piece like 48 by 48 and they wanted it. And I said, well, is there anything else in the booth you like? And they ended up buying two pieces and I gave them like 5% off. But, you have to be fairly firm on your prices because I feel like if you aren't, then you're not an artist. You're a flea market person. And Tom, I just pulled up your website, engineeredsculptures.com. Is that right?
Yes.
And I'm looking at this, and I think because of the technical difficulty of what you're doing, like when you sell a big piece, like I opened one up that was 54 inches and it was $3,800. I think you have to look at it as your skill level plus how much wall space you're covering. So that piece to me in Austin would be like 5,500. And I go to a lot of Austin shows. I don't sell at all of them, but I attend them in Austin galleries. And Fort Worth can be some big money. Like they almost have bragging rights for what they've spent on something here in Texas. And so I went from pricing things cheaper when I had my gallery, which was 2014, 2015, to doubling and tripling those prices and more stuff sold. Because I just sold a piece yesterday that is a commission that I'm doing for a downtown condo, and it's not hard to make, and it's $3,200 because of the wall space it covers. I do think your prices are a little low for Fort Worth. So
I,
if
I will,
anything, I would agree with them, say price them a little higher, and then if you don't sell anything, you can always come down. But I just think you will.
you
Taking a
don't,
look at
when
it.
I say, you have some room to work, um, you don't want to get in this thing where you're coming down 30, 40%. No, but if you can see somebody's really close, and Deb, I do the same thing. I have smaller prints. And when I was selling the frame prints, I have the small 8x10s that were like 25 or $30. I
Hmm.
would just, if they bought a frame print, they automatically got one or two small, small
Yeah,
eight by
give them a
tens.
kick out. Give them something they can take home
Yeah.
or
And
whatever.
so,
But
Tom, if you have something small, that, you could sweeten the deal with, you know. And when I say price it high so you have room to work, doesn't mean you necessarily need to give them a discount, but leaves you room to maybe throw something else into it.
Yeah. If they tend to be a collector and it looks like you mainly have big pieces, I wouldn't clutter your booth with too many small things because of the look and feel of your piece. But I would say you can also give them a like collector card. This is a weird concept, but I knew an artist in Denver that had such unique stuff like yours, Tom. It's like you can't get it anywhere else. And so they gave him a collector card, and the first piece they paid full price, but then they gave him a collector card that said they get 5% off the second one they buy and 10% off the third one. But all of their prices were, 800 was probably the cheapest thing they had in their booth. So, they've kind of forced the collector piece of it, and you're definitely unique.
Well,
So
thanks for that. I guess this is all helpful, you guys. One of the other strategies that maybe I was in past shows, I put prices on my work, and I would put the price, and then I would put show price as a lower price.
right,
No,
it's the
never
smash and
do
carry.
that.
No,
And
never do that.
and I learned the hard way. That was kind of a stupid thing to do. So I kind of learned my lesson with that. Um, but now,
I do the
how,
reverse. I don't lower them at the show, but if they buy a piece after the show and they want me to mail it to them, I will, include or discount the postage, so that they don't feel like they had to pay more for waiting. I don't know. Do you guys all charge postage if you sell it after the show?
After the show, it's full price for me. If you're going to you want a discount, the time to get a discount and talk to me is at the show. After the show, you buying at full price. I don't care.
Right, but do you charge for shipping on top of full
No, I
price?
never charge for shipping because,
Okay.
You would add it to the price of the piece.
well, that in your guys' case, I don't. My shipping cost is just the wood crate and $10.
Okay.
We
how
always
about
charge shipping.
how about the another strategy? Maybe this is along the same lines of that foolish strategy we just talked about, but where my website has maybe a little higher price than what I show, but they don't realize that my website is higher than my show price. But when they scan maybe my
You,
QR
I
code,
tell you, let me
Your
just tell
show
you
price
this
should at
and keep
least match your
it.
website, if
what's
not more.
that?
Yeah,
I
the price
think you're
should be the same everywhere. You're killing yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
You
your
need the
show
prices to
price
be the
needs to
same
be
everywhere.
at least what your website is.
Okay.
Here's what happens. You're going to make somebody mad because no
Yeah.
matter how you price it, if you have different prices, somebody's going to buy it at the higher price and see it at the lower price. Now, if you want to, some shows frown on it, but again, it's a deal sweetener, you can offer some slightly lower prices at shows if you want. But that would be, I would have everything marked the same as your website.
So if I'm kind of hearing what you guys are saying, I mean, just keep everything consistent on the web and on the show. If I do
Absolutely.
lower the price, it's kind of on a one-on-one basis. It's not it's in a discussion only, not anything advertised like that, right?
Right.
Okay.
I just want to say one thing. We have people come up. So my wife she's an artist. She paints abstract acrylic on canvas. We've had people come up and love the piece. It was $4,800. It was an original, and they came. I let Marianne do the deal, and I just set the 10 up. This guy came up and said, "Is 4,800 the best price I can get?" And Marianne looked at him and said, "That's the best price you'll get." And he walked away, and he never came back. And Marianne, because she told me that he wanted to buy the piece for $4,500, which was $300 cheaper, right? And Marianne told me, she said, that $300 is more important to me than it is to him, because he was willing to buy the piece for $4,500.
I would have taken
And
the money in a second.
well, I know, I get that, but you know what? Here's the thing. Marianne says my work is worth every penny
Has nothing
of
to do
what
with
I
it.
of what I price it. And if somebody
Has
doesn't
nothing
want
to
to
do
buy
with
it,
it.
well,
It's called
that's
cash flow. You sell it.
I get
I
that.
never look back. I'll take the money.
I get that. But you know, that's again, that's how she rolls. I would have taken the money.
I
I would
know
have
that
taken.
when I go into a show, I go in that I'm willing to do a certain percentage discount.
Yeah, me too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually, depending upon the sale, that's 5 to 10%.
Right. Right. But you know, but it's funny because the way she explained it to me was she said that he came in and really didn't talk about the art, really didn't talk about her, didn't ask her any questions. He just saw the piece and he said, "Is that the best price I can get?" And so it just kind of, you know, it pissed her off.
Well,
Anyway,
she should have
Court,
told him the best price is $500 more.
there you go.
I
Court,
always say
I'm going to
double.
DM you later. I got to cut out, guys.
I always say double, actually.
I got one last question. I'll let somebody else chime in here. With respect to when someone wants to purchase something at my booth, I am not kind of in a typical artist situation where I don't have the room to bring inventory to the show. I have barely enough room to bring what I have on display in my booth. My smaller ones, I do have a little bit of inventory, but the larger ones. I have to go back to my studio and make those and then ship those out. So when I take the order, is it in line to ask for the full amount at the time that they purchase something in the booth? And the lead times for me to be able to ship something sometimes can be 6 to 8 weeks. Is that unusual, or is it better? Am I better off just asking for a down payment and then the balance upon the time that I ship?
Be
I
careful
typically,
about that. Sorry to chime in, but since I used to have a lot of mail order business, I worked for an online company for years in Omaha that we shipped products. And one of the sites I ran was Clock Style, and they would ship like grandfather clocks from Germany. You know, the most we could ever take was 50% legally until that product shipped. Like it's literally against the law if you're shipping things across state lines to collect 100% of the funds if you can't ship it. I think it was like a 1 week window. If you can't ship it in a week, you have to ask less money. Now, people get around it all the time, like if you're looking at a small price point, but if you're looking at thousands of dollars, that could be an issue.
yeah, I always do 50%.
Okay. And I guess 50% would be fine. My concern, I guess, is I offer custom coloring included in the purchase price for a number of my sculptures. So, I don't want to have somebody back out and me having created this custom color sculpture, and now I'm stuck with it. At least I've got a 50% deposit, I guess, to compensate me if they do back out.
And
Right.
you have to be very careful and research the legalese on this. You have to tell them when they pay you that it's non-refundable and state it in a certain way, so that legally, if they do back out, you can keep it.
Okay.
Especially paying with a credit card. So, like, you can make out a receipt that says, and I always do because I do a lot of commission work. The 1 year I had a gallery in Austin, I did 50 commission pieces in 11 months. So and a lot of these commissions were over $1,000. So you really do have to have some kind of it can be just, super basic that says, and they like it. They like going home with a copy of this that so and so paid this much money, which is half down. This much balance will be due. The approximate delivery time frame will be this. And they agree to that agreement and that the deposit is non-refundable. So then they sign that. So then you take their American Express or whatever, and they dispute the credit card purchase, then you can send that sheet to the credit card company and say, nope, this is what we did, and it was non-refundable. Then the credit card company will say, fine, you get to keep the money. But I actually had that happen once, and it was because they didn't recognize the name of the gallery. They were looking for my name. And so you got to kind of protect yourself just a little bit.
Well, thanks all. You've been all very helpful. The questions have been bouncing around my mind for months now, so this has been a big help.
Cool. Well, I gotta go too. My poor dog is whining at the door, and if I don't get her out, I might be cleaning something up.
Yeah, I gotta go as well.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate all the input.
Sure.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.